Hello and welcome. You're listening to the audio presentation of She Came From Nowhere, the novelization of a 13-book series. It is the story of a secret agent from a multiversal government agency discovering the location of God and taking action to kill her. The series covers the war between gods and mortals who create and destroy themselves and their worlds. The novels are written and performed by Caleb Morazi. If you would like to support the creation of this series and add input of your own, swing by patreon.com/shecamefromnowhere to become a secret agent. You'll get access to the entire novel, new series chapters as they become available, and audio from each. Link in the description. And now, enjoy She Came From Nowhere. OoE-0, The End and the Beginning by Caleb Morazi. For Miss Cup, wherever you are. The Orders of Erasure, a case concerning the Central Intelligence Bureau's plot to eliminate Universe Null Sub 1 from the multiverse without just cause or provocation. She Came From Nowhere, The End and the Beginning, copyright 2023 by Caleb Morazi, all rights reserved. Patreon.com/shecamefromnowhere. Without written permission of the promoters and the authors, it is forbidden to reproduce or adapt in any form or by any means any part of this publication. Requests for obtaining the rights to reproduce or utilize parts of this publication should be addressed to the author or their heirs. This book is a work of fiction. Any references to historical events, real people, or real places are used fictitiously. Other names, characters, places, and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to actual events or places or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Forewarned. What you're reading is the novelization of the She Came From Nowhere series outline. Each of the 13 chapters in this book represents one of a corresponding 13 books. You'll notice that a lot happens in a little space and styles change rapidly. The story was to cover in 200 pages, but I wanted to see it all in one place beginning to end, so I compressed it. I enjoyed writing each and every page. There's humor, heartbreak, epic battles through time and space. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you, more of the backstories to each of the moments and characters represented in this novel. This project will be years in the making, and depending on when you start reading, you may get to see it created in real time. Thanks to social media, the conversation that we all have while it's being created will influence its official canon. Just saying, fanfics that are contemporaries of this series have a potential of finding their way into the multiverse. Forward. The multiverse is vast, and it began its long journey before any of its current occupants were able to observe it. We are the results of a multitude of events that came before us, and we will influence everything that comes after us in ways that we cannot possibly understand. If you, dear reader, feel overwhelmed at any time by the vastness and seemingly chaotic nature of it all, do not despair. The multiverse is so highly ordered that it boggles our minds, making us feel small and insignificant in comparison, but, my loved one, persevere. There is beauty in every moment, and you'll never experience the conclusion if you give up before getting there. Chapter 1. Secret Agents. 1. Juan Serran stares through the electroscope at a microcosm in his office, the inhabitants of the tiny world carrying on their daily roles of work, school, love, and war. He sees the FirmTech mind control devices, which had been introduced minutes ago according to his time frame, have already spread across the entire planet. If they are a success, he plans to introduce it into the other microcosms laying around the room. The multiverse is inherently chaotic, and as the head of the Central Intelligence Bureau, Juan was tasked with the timeline maintenance within it, by any means necessary. Juan looks up as Certain, a field agent from the Illic universe, enters. No one agreed on what the agent looked like, since his appearance shifts whenever the observer blinks. "We have located the source of all chaos, sir," Certain says in a neutral tone. "A sliver of reality that our scientists are calling Null Sub 1. There's only one creature living there, an Imogen. It creates entire universes as it dreams. Do you want us to go eraser it? Imagine one creature having all that power, Juan muses. Dispatch agents and bring it in. I don't expect it'll come easy, but what part of this job has ever been easy? 2. As she slumbers in her cave, the Imogen, Sakui, watches the creatures preparing for her capture. I don't want to take any chances, the older of the two says. Intel shows the creature not only exhibits psychogenesis, it also has a wicked set of claws. I'm always prepared, says the younger female, buckling sighted laser pistols to her furry chest. We can't bring in the bounty if we don't live it long enough to capture it. Sakui's dream shifts and she sees the hunters arrive in her corner of the multiverse. The Imogen stirs, unfolding her large black wings as she moves to the mouth of her cave. She hears the hunters approaching stealthily through her jungle and she leaps into the air, gliding silently toward them through the trees. She tries hard not to alert them to her presence as she's never been hunted before and she's enjoying the experience. Sakui realizes they may enjoy it too, so she dives at the hunters, screaming. Terror crosses their face and then Sakui's as her wings hit a branch, tumbling her. The Imogen crashes headfirst into the ground, almost knocking herself unconscious. Instead of getting up, she decides to lay still. She only wanted to give the hunters a scare. She was willing to let them capture her if it made them feel more accomplished. The older of the two nudges Sakui with his toe. That was easier than I thought. She blinks and everything changes. Sakui finds herself caged in the hunter's camp. The older male stands between the cage and the drawn laser pistol of the furry female. I want to get back to Central. If we don't kill it, we'll be lost in the rift forever. Tria, the male says. The Imogen is likely unaware that it's creating timequakes. We don't know what would happen if it ceased to exist. We're witnessing a once-in-a-billion lifetimes exist. Imagine what would happen if it was working on our side. 3. In the blink of an eye, the older male, Griffin, and Sakui are alone in her cave. He looks around nervously and said, "They sent us to eraser you, but I know the way out." The Imogen speaks for the first time ever. "Why do you seek to destroy me?" Griffin scrunches his brow, trying to explain. "Most of what you create is good, but some things and places you imagine are bad. Very bad. Worlds made only for torture. I want to take you back to CIB headquarters and show them that you're not a threat." Without waiting for an answer, the man runs and leaps out of the cave's mouth. Sakui listens with an amused smile as he screams, falling very quickly, but she finally dives after him, catching him right before he hits the ground. The Imogen feels the adrenaline pounding in his veins. "I knew you wouldn't let me die," he says. Griffin points at the fog that surrounds the jungle. "Quick, take us through there. It's a doorway to other universes. We need to get moving before others come." 4. "Hurry up," an otter called Sebastian yells to his friends through the dense jungle. "It's not much further to the Dingo God's Grove. We want to get there before sundown." Yosef, a cat with a high-tech collar and backpack, joins him. I brought his favorites. Spatina, a giraffe, follows them. "I hope he convinces father to let me marry Jarol." "Your father has such outdated ideas," Yosef says. "Our collars have ensured that no herb has been eaten by a Karn in centuries. We're productive members of society now." Fire dances around them as they enter the grove, an echoing howl filling their ears. "You're either very brave or very stupid," a voice barks in the darkness. The trio kneels in the grass, and Yosef takes out a battery, a bone, and a flask of berry brandy. "Tetraserina, you do not know us," Bettina says. "We're just creatures under your care. We come to ask your blessing on a union to heal the rift between our peoples." "You want me to waste my time on your petty Urbian problems," the dingo roars. Fire erupts from the trees, and Sebastian lets out a little squeak before passing out. She stands. "You hide behind your power, but you're just a Karn looking for respect." The fire stops. The dingo appears. "You won't get what you want until you're equal." Tetraserini stands over the otter, his expression unreadable. He's so peaceful. "You herbs got the best of the deal, you know. I don't see why they would change." You know the prophecy, Spatina says quietly. The Karns will rise when Tetraserini leaves the jungle. I imagine it's why you've stayed here so long, keeping the collars working and making sure no major trade routes formed. But it will happen, my lord. One day you will leave here. If you're the only one stopping them, there will be chaos. This isn't my homeworld, he replies. Where I'm from, we didn't eat each other. And we don't want to anymore either, Yosef chimes in. We're grateful for you pulling us out of our barbarism we were living in. Now help us take the next step. Sir, I've fallen in love with a lion, Spatina says, and he would never hurt me. Sebastian gets to his feet, rubbing his head. Forget it, guys. This was a waste of time. I never meant to become responsible for your world, Tetraserini says. Someone is coming for me, and my hope is that you've learned enough to care for yourselves. 5. From his VR chamber, Juan Serra addresses agents from across the countless timelines he maintains. This creature is a top priority threat, Serra thunders. What you've been trained to do through clear logical manipulation, it does by thinking. One agent we sent after it ceased to exist, and the creature escaped with another. I want them found. In each agent's VR chamber, a 20-foot-tall Juan Serra towers over them, sweating. Sequoia appears, her dark scales and wings filling the agents with awe. Don't underestimate our enemy, Juan Serra says. It'll undermine everything we've achieved. Our analysis shows that the creature can sustain massive amounts of blunt force. However, it's grown up in a complete isolation and is likely to be susceptible to guile. Juan Serra draws his vibroblade, turning as glass shatters in the room behind him. It's the insurrection from Trenton Brandswank. Be alert, agents. Serra out. Sequi streaks out of the sky towards the unknown grassland and creatures below, wanting to make Griffin scream. He doesn't, and they crash land, leaving a crater. Nearby, a giraffe gestures to them with a teacup. There's Tetraserini's sign for you, Spatina. If he approved of your marriage to a Karn, he spits, he'd come down himself. He's going to have to rain down fire if he wants to stop me, Spatina snaps back. This isn't where the doorway used to lead, Griffin says, pulling out a small device and scrolling through the information. Divergence indicators put us in Savannah? I thought this would be more fun than where you were taking us, Sequi says. Fun, yes. The edge of the multiverse. He scrolls more. We're a long way off. 6. Baradian, a 7-foot-tall angel, crouches behind a desk in Dr. Sarah K. Klee's office, his wings shielding the doctor from the glass fired by the insurgents. It doesn't make sense, he says in a chorus of voices. Why would Serra change his policy on the creature? A cyborg rounds the desk, lancer drawn. Blood splashes on Baradian as his talon hand slices. He kills us in an adjacent universe, as the angel says, easing him to the floor. Sarah K. handsprings to the flying glass to the doorway. I hate your rhetorical questions, she yells, adjusting her pinstripe suit. Just tell me what you want. Cyborgs move in on Sarah K. and she disarms them easily, turning the lancers on their owners. She flips her hair out of her face. I thought there were more of them. The angel glides to Sarah K. through the carnage. We need this distraction to break into Sarah's office. He's a scientist, not a xenophobe. Something is affecting his mind. The doctor nods, peeking out the doorway before turning back to Baradian. Clear. Sleep, the angel says firmly, and Sarah K. slumps into his arms. I'm sorry, boss, he says, putting her over his shoulder. If I get glass cubed, I need you to finish it for us. 7. Tea? Spatina's father, Wampa, asks Sequi and Griffin as they approach the table. Sequi nods, seeing a kinship in Spatina that transcends their species and experiences. Wampa laughs. Spatina says Tetraserini is leaving us at the mercy of the Karns. Juan Serra barricades himself in his office with Ellen Grobley, a large reptilian. Glass shatters outside as the insurrection continues. I see mirrored life signs in a fringed timeline of highly advanced animals, Ellen says, is likely our agent and the creature. I will contact our agents on the ground and have them move to intercept. Cyborgs with lancers burst through the door and freeze, terrified at the sight of Ellen. I want to guide Spatina to Mahalek, Sebastian says to Victor, his twin, packing. Why is there a Karn coming up the pathway to our house, their father, Timothy Scarywig calls from the front room. We can't have their kind around here.
Victor and Sebastian hurry from their bedroom as they hear their father's laser rifle wind up. "Dad, please don't hurt him," the outer pups shout. "It's Yosef. He's our friend." "A Karn was responsible for your mother's death, boys, and I aimed even the score." Sebastian steps in front of the laser rifle. "It was an accident, Dad. The war's over." Beridian's flaming bone sword beheads the cyborgs before he steps into Sarah's office with Sarah Kay. "She's been hurt," the angel says, laying her on the desk. "A toxin likely." Ellen moves to help Sarah Kay, but Beridian shouts a command beyond words, a symphonic chord stopping her. "Keep your slimy claws to yourself, mans," he says. "Perfect," Sarah smiles. "It's exactly what we need to mind-lock the entire planet." Griffin sips his tea, warily watching a hovercraft land. A leopard leap out. "Enough debate," Sequi shouts, startling the animals at the table. "I want you to decide for yourselves, Bettina. Marry who you love. It doesn't matter who disagrees." Sequi leaps, scooping Griffin up, and flies for the hovercraft. "Come on." "You can fly it, can't you?" she asks Griffin, her wings shielding them from laser fire. "Sure, but do you know what you've done?" he asks as he joins Bettina on board. "I want to move, then we'll talk," Sequi shouts, and Griffin lifts them into the air. They fly toward the jungle, leaving Wampa behind, and Spatina hugs Sequi. Griffin looks at them and says, "This isn't a dream, you know. This is affecting real lives. I want you to consider this. Our actions always have more influence than we know." Sora enters his VR chamber, leaving Ellen and Beradian alone. "Agents in Trenton Brunswick return to HQ immediately for updated assignments and technology. We've had a massive assault directed at our beloved doctor, and we need to take decisive action." "Go stop the insurgents from coming this way, mans," Beradian says dismissively. He watches Ellen leave before opening Sarah's terminal to view the director's files. Sebastian's father can't believe his ears. "You're working with the Karns?" Yosef knocks, and the three otters look at each other intensely. "Sebastian?" Yosef calls, opening the door. He sees the situation inside and eases his way in, his fluffy white hair standing on end. Timothy points the gun at Yosef, and Sebastian stays in front of the barrel, protecting his friend. "If you kill me, you'll only make other Karns want to kill you, and the cycle continues. Your sons and I have been friends for a very long time." "Incidentally," he continues, "I came to let him know that Spatina left without us." Ellen broods over the angels' disrespect for her people. They felt superior because they entered the multiverse first. She pats the unholy bullet she carries and smiles. Sarah Kay wakes up, looking at Beradian. "Did you use sleep on me, you big turkey?" "Yes," he smiles, "but we're more closely related to the creatures that you'd call eagles. Now lay still. I told them you were poisoned, and it's caused a multi-dimensional affair." The hovercraft dies as it reaches the jungle. "Oh, I should have told you," Spatina says. Griffin crash lands gracefully, the sun setting as the three of them climb out. "You two are trouble. I'll tell you what," he says. "Let's go. We have a hike ahead of us." "Hey, there's something I want you to see," Beradian says to Sarah Kay, turning Sarah's terminal to her. "You and the Imogen are intertwined." I knew it seemed weird. He's not hunting the creature, he's hunting you, trying to take you out at your source. As Sura exits his VR chamber, the angel swoops in, raising his sword. "I suppose you have an explanation for attempted murder." He towers over the terrified human. Sarah Kay vaults off the desk, heels clicking across the tile floor as she approaches Sarah. "How dare you," she says, "after everything I've done for you, protected you from." Juan drops to his knees, clutching at Sarah Kay's skirt before she brushes him away. "Please, Dr. Klee, it's not what you think. Call off your guard, I can explain everything." "I want you to start," Beradian says, grabbing Sura's collar. "I'm not her servant. All intertwined beings share a life force. Killing one enhances all the others." The angel lets him go, amused at the idea. "You are turning her into a god?" Wara gets unsteadily to his feet. "Wiping out the largest one gains the maximum amount of power. If we kill the thing, Sarah Kay, you'll be able to bend reality." 9. Be careful about upsetting the fire poppies, Bettina says as they walk. The flowers are sacred to Tetracerini, and we're already trespassing here. We don't need to upset him. Sukui plucks one of the little flowers, flames erupting around her, and a voice howls from everywhere at once, "Stop!" She looks, amused, and plucks another one. They're surrounded by huge fire dingoes. "I have no time for your insolence, creature." Sukui stares down each one before announcing to the jungle behind them, "I want to speak to the real Tetracerini. At least be courteous enough to threaten us in person." "Come here," one gestures, drawing her away from the others. Sukui follows it into the darkness for a short distance before it starts raining fireballs down on her. Sukui's wings cover her, taking the beating. "You will not deter me, Tetracerini." As the fire falls, a shadow approaches. "I don't want to hurt you. I had to be sure. In most worlds, a creature with your powers would crush me if they felt threatened." "I have never met a creature who would do that to another," Sukui says, the fireball sinking her into the ground. She continues standing unbent and unscathed. "But I do know they exist. Is that why you've hidden yourself so far off-world?" The fire stops, Tetracerini materializing. "To these creatures I am a god. They depend on me to keep them safe, but, can I be honest? I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I stop them from killing each other, and they come up with new ways to do it." "You are not meant to carry this burden, Tetracerini," Sukui says, climbing out of her hole. "It is the responsibility of those who live on this world to make their choices about how to behave towards each other. Some worlds choose poorly, and they become awful places to live, slowly destroying themselves. It's not good, but it is their choice." 10. Monkeys emerge from the jungle, grabbing Tetracerini's paws and tugging him. He sighs. "They're holding a moon festival in my honor. Do you want to keep me company?" Griffin looks at the giraffe, Sukui, and the dingo god. "It'd be an honor," he says. Spatina looks sad but says, "Well, if you're going, I guess we can stay until morning." "Yosef fixed the boat," Sebastian says to his father as they sit on the porch. "Maybe we should go visit Aunt Sylvie in Tunga. We could go fishing, collect some rocks." Tetracerini juggles flaming skulls as monkeys dance around him in their village. Sukui stretches out on the ground, leaning against a log to take in the spectacle. Nature at its most raw is always the most beautiful, and she's grateful to see it existing outside of her mind. She loved them, every single mischievous one of them, and she knew that if she was going to wake up right now, then she was going to be waking up happy. Sebastian guides the motorboat, carrying his sleeping father and brother upstream. The day had exhausted him, but he can't rest. He scans the banks for Urbian thieves. Monkeys hand Sukui an intoxicating juice, and she drinks it to not offend them. Griffin and Spatina drink too. She knows they're up to no good, but she says nothing. Sebastian sees a white flashing between the trees, and he calls out, "Who's there?" Yosef shines a light on his face, saying, "I figured you could use an extra set of eyes." The giraffe and the human lay unconscious, their drink spilled across the ground as the monkeys dance wildly around them. Sukui is fully aware of her surroundings, but stays still, watching a monkey place owl-like hamsters in their arms. She instinctively cuddles it, forming an instant bond with it as she feels the creatures probing her mind. Sura looks at Sarah Kay. "Our agents have mind-linked us with your doppelganger." Timothy Scarywig wakes, Sebastian and Yosef talking. "What's he doing here?" "I wanted him to come in case our boat ran into trouble," Sebastian says quickly. Tetracerini sits next to Sukui. "You probably can't hear me, but I'm crazy about you. I'm done being revered. I want to go wherever you go. Let them eat each other." He puts his paw on her head. "I'm going to leave before they come looking for me, but I'll catch up with you before you leave the jungle to make sure you make it safely." 11. Sukui wakes up hours later, hog-tied in the bed of a truck rolling through the jungle. "Guys," Griffin says to the monkeys, "I'm with the CIB too. Look, I have a world book." A monkey climbs from the cab and takes Griffin's device, but ignores him otherwise. "This creature should not be underestimated," Griffin calls as they rumble on. "She probably finds you displeasing and is manipulating the quanta here to obliterate all life." I want to speak to your superior, Griffin yells as the truck pulls up to his shack. The monkeys pull Griffin out, throwing him to the ground before beating him up. Don't hurt him, Spatina shouts, but the monkeys ignore her, climbing into the truck bed. Suddenly, the giraffe starts singing without words, her horns glowing. The monkeys stop in absolute shock before fleeing into the trees as she continues. The light moves from Spatina's horns to the ground surrounding Griffin and healing him. As the blood vanishes, he stands up and croaks, "They took my world book." 12. An elephant exits the shack, a laser rifle pointed at them. "Lonnie," Spatina gasps. "Come along, dear," the elephant drawls. "I know you would never have done this if the creature hadn't cast a spell on you. Let me take you back before it gets worse." Ellen Grobley calls the angel in Sura's office. "Baradian, the insurgents are retreating." "Gather in survivors and bring them to interrogation," Sura says. The angel nods. Sequoia sees blood on her claws as she comes to. "I didn't want to hurt him." "Don't worry about Lonnie," Spatina says, leading her into the jungle. "We've got to leave before the monkeys come back. I didn't know they were working together." "They're all agents for Central," Griffin says, bringing up the rear. "There's one planted in every known civilization in the multiverse, each autonomous until activated." Monkeys attack, and Sequoia attacks them, shouting, "I don't want to hurt you." Spatina watches Sequoia in awe. "I wish I could be ferocious like that," she says. Sequoia flies into a frenzy, ripping the monkeys to shreds. As they flee, she leaps, catching them and bringing to the ground in a bloody mess. Not one escapes. The dust settles, and the Imogen looks around herself in dismay. "Why did you make me do this? You could have stopped it. I created all of you. I know all your names." She blinks and is standing outside the jungle with Tetraserini, Griffin, and Spatina. Ellen loads her gun with unholy bullets, holstering it as Baradian joins her. He crouches to grab an injured cyborg, and she shoots the angel, crumbling him into dust. Sequoia stands with her friends in the shadows of the jungle, watching a hovercraft cross the vast desert before them and land in the hot white sand, a lion at the wheel. "Gerald," Spatina gasps. "She got us through. This ferocious creature saved us." 13. Sequoia stares lovingly at the little furry creature in her arms, the creature staring back at her with large, adorable eyes. She knew she has to protect it, no matter what. Juan Surratt leans back in his chair, hands behind his head, a tense look on his face as he speaks to Sarah Kay. "Our extermination attempt failed, and now they know we're close to them. Our only hope now is that the Ferb Tech will bond with them fully." "They're still untested," Sarah Kay says. "Its reproduction rates could be detrimental." "Desperate times, my dear. If we can't destroy the creature, it'll end us all." "This is not sanctioned by the Bureau's charter, sir. It says maintain, not control." Sora pounds a fist on the desk. "I'm directed to maintain by any means necessary." The doctor crosses her arms, counting silently before continuing. "In a closed system, the more you increase the pressure, the more chaotic the individuals become. I want you to think before applying force to the most chaotic element we've ever seen." "I won't be applying force," Sora laughs. "It will, as it tries to protect the device." At the edge of the Savannian desert, the Ferb Tech chirps, and Sequoia nuzzles it.
End of Chapter 1. Thank you for listening to this audio presentation of She Came From Nowhere, a series novelization written and performed by Caleb Morazi. If you'd like to read more of this book, read chapters from the series, listen to audio, and further support the development of this project, please go to patreon.com/SheCameFromNowhere, link in the description. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. Until next time, we'll see you soon.